Hello, my name is Ryan Wunderlich, and today I'm going to be talking to you about getting employees up to speed in your design environment. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about building an effective program and how to create effective training materials. Included in that is going to be the conveyance of the standards and their importance in your company, using mentors, building a feedback loop into the training program to help drive future training, and building timelines for follow-up. With that, we'll just get started with building an effective program. First thing we should do is interview. We should interview the last few new hires within your organization. You should also make a list of questions to ask them if you had in-person learning or e-learning. Make pointed inquiries to draw out the key points to focus on for training. Find out reasons why previous employees that didn't complete their probationary period were applicable. Was it due to their quality of work? Was it ability to complete a project on time? Was it related to their CAD skills? Or was it an inability to follow instructions or standards? And then we also want to ask platform-specific questions. Had they ever used AutoCAD, Revit, etc. before? Were they using your specific software previously and are now using a vertical product? In other words, were they using AutoCAD and now you've moved them up to Civil 3D? Were they using version prior to AutoCAD or the verticals prior to your company? Were they using Revit 2016 and your standards are Revit 2020? And when was the last time they used CAD professionally? Next thing is the standards usage. Are the standards you use easily accessible and user-friendly? Are the standards already pre-populated in your base drawing templates, or do you import them or insert them for each drawing? Are different teams using different standards? Are they working on drawings that are not following the current standards? Are your standards followed 100% of the time? And what do you do with incoming drawings from outside consultants? Other questions you should ask as well. Did they receive complete information necessary to complete a project? Were they only doing red line edits for the first few weeks or months of being on the job, or did they have a work buddy or a mentor to help them on a regular basis, or were they simply thrown to the wolves? What things would they have liked to have before starting the job? Do they want training, familiarization, some concise instructions, perhaps a cheat sheet on where to find important information like drives, directories, etc.? Did they understand the expectations of their performance after 30 days and 90 days? The other thing to ask is, do they understand the actual process of getting work done? Do they understand how to do sheet layouts, insert title blocks and sheet sizings? Do they understand revisioning? Do they understand plan readability? Once you have all these questions answered, now we want to make a list. Use the information gathered during this interview process. Make a list of all the points. Assign a priority to each point. Create a class outline for each class. Make sure you build upon each previous class. Make sure to break it down into smaller pieces. And be sure to specify if it's a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced class. Give a brief summary of each class to introduce the purpose of each training session and give an idea how long each class or session will take to complete. The reason why we do this is so that we understand what we're doing. So this is one of my examples. This is Drafting 101. This is typically 2 to 3 hours per session, and there's 2 sessions total. The purpose of this class is to introduce people to the basics of drafting. This is to cover the basics of laying out sheets, what is scale, how do you use it, and other basic drawing conventions that are used in the industry. We're also going to cover the importance of using the same styles and why it is important to keep continuity between drawings. Our session 1, which will be 2 to 3 hours, talks about general information, plan readability. Session 2, we talk about drawing layouts. We talk about sheet composition, in other words, paper sizes and sheet sizes, the difference between a plan, a section, and elevation layouts, scale usage, title block, detail sheets, general note sheets, legends, and schedules. Once you have all that information, now you want to create a proposal. So talking to management, give examples of your class outlines, do all your homework ahead of time, give them the reasons for running it, reference employees that did not make the probationary period based on CAD performance, give estimates on how much faster the new employees can be productive and billable. Billable is very important to upper management to understand how soon a new hire can be up to speed. Always ask for a pilot run, allows management to see the benefit of training and allows the program to be more effective in the long run. If you run a pilot, you can actually go in and see where things need to be changed, how things need to be done. And from there, you can go ahead and do additional training. Generally, ask for a dedicated training area to conduct in-person training. Find an area that doesn't disrupt normal day-to-day activities like an empty office or an unused conference room, and use some lower-end unused PCs with identical configurations. If you plan on doing e-learning, ask for a trial of e-learning software if in-person training is not available. That way you can go through the trial. It's typically 30 days. Kick the tires, see if that's going to get you what you want. Now we're going to talk about creating effective training materials. So once you have your process in place and you're ready to run a pilot, now we want to talk about your training materials. The training materials that you create are going to make or break your program. It must be relative to the work you do. So for example, if you are entirely a metric or an imperial-based company, then you always want to set up all of your training materials to be in that same relative space, whether it's metric or imperial, and actual work examples are best to use whenever possible. Determine the method, if it's an in-person classroom-based or if it's e-learning or self-paced. If it's e-learning or self-paced, there must be a mechanism for tracking progress and there must be a mechanism for reporting results. Generally speaking, I say utilize your Autodesk training material manuals as backbones for the material. Use the ideas and concepts for getting your points across. They're invaluable tools to yourself and will give you all the ways to launch a command. Most of us only use one method to launch a command, right? And there's multiple methods. We'll give the users a chance to pick which is most comfortable or adaptable for them, and each new employee is different and should be treated as such. So for example, the resources you can use, again, your reseller. They can provide you with the Autodesk training materials, either books or courseware, train the trainer classes, Productivity Now platform if you're an IMAGINiT customer, or the equivalent from your own reseller. Paid consultants can also come in and help develop this stuff. You also have your own network of peers, local and regional user groups, other groups and organizations at which you belong to, AIA or other industry-specific organizations. And the one resource that a lot of people don't ever use is your power users. You always have a group of users that are the go-tos for everything. They can also help you develop your materials and make sure that everything there follows what needs to be done. Next, we're going to talk about the conveyance of standards. When you're setting up your own materials, it is critical that you set these materials up with your standards. Remember to also add materials to your training that includes any custom programming, Lisp, ARX, VB, VBA, .NET, any tool palettes or any other customizations, and any third-party programs. So for example, if you are an IMAGINiT customer or you have bought our utilities for Civil 3D or Revit, make sure that the training includes those tools. And keep the end goal in mind. Again, is this in-person or e-learning, and you're going to want to adapt those things as well. In addition, if you're using an electronic document management system, this could be Vault, this could be ProjectWise, this could be any number of flavors of ways of tracking electronic documents. You'll always want to set up a training folder, set up generic logins, and do not give your users access to the live data until they've completed the training. And also allow them to see what happens if they don't follow the correct protocols. So for example, if drawings are left locked or drawings are not checked in correctly, this will help drive home the standards, and this will also help drive home the process by which they need to be following. Right? If you're doing live classes, you always should have a list of class rules. Include approximate break times. Here's a good example of my AutoCAD training class, right? First things first, we log into the computer with your own username and password, and please no surfing, checking email, or working on anything else but what the instructor has told you to work on. The class is an opportunity for you to learn, and please respect it. There is a folder on your desktop with the relevant instructional materials, and please only use the one you're instructed to, as others will be for other classes. And here's the breakdown of our class times. So for example, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. will be the first part of the day, and somewhere in that block of time there will be a 10 to 15 minute break. Between the hours of 12 and 1, we'll have a lunch break, and in our particular case here, lunch is not provided. They will be, they'll need to provide their own lunch. And between 1 and 5 is the last part of the day, and again, there'll be a 10 to 15 minute break in this part of time. And I don't specify when that break occurs because it's going to be a lot of that is going to be dependent on when specifically that break falls inside the class material and when it's convenient. And remember, have fun, ask questions when you have them, because this training is for you. Now deliver the training. It's very important to be enthusiastic and confident. And do not hand out the materials or binders or whatever and expect the users to go through the exercises on their own. Again, this is live training. Do not lecture, use interactive training. And what I mean by this is we use a projector and a screen. What I typically do is I explain a concept, I walk them through the lesson, and then I want them to watch me do the lesson so they understand where everything's going to be, and then I have them do that. And while they're doing the exercise, I walk around and confirm that everyone's doing it and make sure that everything's going as designed, or as desired, I should say. Have your handouts ready for the class each morning before class starts. Jump right into training. Include white space in those handouts for the employees to write down notes and other ideas as they go through each lesson. And the most important thing is be on time and start on time. Begin promptly at the appointed time and don't delay for stragglers. And make sure that that your people understand that latecomers will have to catch up to the class and that you're not going to wait for them. Right? As part of this as well, you need a sign-in sheet to track who has come to class and have a record of attendance. Write up a summary of the class and give this to your manager and the managers of those that were in the training class, and prepare for feedback during the class. Have a notebook handy to jot down notes. And it's very important that you capture these notes during class so you can modify training for the next group and/or come back to that point later in class. This way you are constantly evolving your training methods and constantly evolving your own training methodology and your own materials. Right? If you're doing online or self-paced training, first things first is you need to be able to track the training. Is there a dashboard you can go to see where individuals are? Can you go ahead and see when they've completed things? Can you see their test scores? When possible, have a system that provides certificates upon completion. If the user is self-paced or if the user is on an e-learning platform, this is where you need to track progress. Next thing is determine the minimum requirements of completion that must be done. If you need them to take a specific course like a fundamentals or an essential courses or track, which includes multiple courses, make sure you outline that. If you only need them to do specific modules within a full course, specify that. And if there are any specific modules or courses that you feel are critical and important. So for example, you may have someone take an AutoCAD fundamentals track, complete all that, and then there may be 2 or 3 pieces in an advanced class that you feel that they need to take, but they don't need to go through the whole advanced course. And you still must have specific training on your standards. Again, project expectations, where to find them, and this refers to where to find your standards and how to ensure your employees are using them. All of those things are very critical. And then after training, you can take the employee back to their manager, or you can take the group of employees back to their respective managers. And I always recommend to set up a mentor for the new employee and a secondary mentor if possible in case the first one is either in a meeting, sick, etc. Generally, it should be a senior person on the team or somebody on the team that's got the most knowledge. They need to be knowledgeable in the overall process of what's expected, and they should not be there to handhold. Again, a mentor is not there as a handhold to help employees through things. They're there to provide guidance quickly and get the employee back on track. And then after training, I always have done this myself, where we want a feedback email. This is going to drive results for the next training sessions. And as well, be prepared to accept negative feedback. Don't feel like you're being attacked for it. Think of this as a constructive way for you to help change methods, time, and/or materials to address issues. Here's an example of one of my questions. What suggestions do you have for improving the training class? Right here, it says, I wish we had handouts that followed the lessons each day. If you're looking at your computer while I clicked on something, then you missed it and fell behind, I'd stop, get everyone caught up. Class felt like a lot of clicking, but necessarily learning how to use the program. Training went fast, it was impossible to take notes, etc. So what I did in this is I took this constructively and I started creating handouts starting for the next class that I was running, and I had handouts of what we were going to cover every day, and I made sure that I slowed the progression of the training down so that rather than try and cover the material in 3 days, we then stretched it out to 4 and made sure that everyone had time to take notes, everyone had time to see what was going on, and at the same time, this is where I also modified my behavior and told the people that I was training, here's the concept, I'm going to show you on the screen what I want you to do, so don't be clicking on anything, and then I want you to do it. Once you've completed the training, and once you've completed the pilot training, we want to follow up with management. So show management the results of your pilot training. This may not be immediate, it may take some time, but get numbers from accounting for billable time for new employees. Get feedback from the employee's manager and or co-workers where applicable. Are they more efficient? Are they more capable? Are they performing the same, better, or worse than the last new hire for that manager? Use a percentage value. If that percentage value seems too high, lower it to a reasonable value. Every once in a while, you're going to come across one of those employees that is absolutely the golden child and learns everything in one step. If that number seems way too high, lower it so that's going to be your typical. And you use this to help drive the point to management that on the value of keeping the program in-house and continuing to train employees. So with that, we're going to talk about the conclusion. What we want to do is, as part of our training, we want to provide a framework for creating a training program. This should be the starting point for all of your new employees, and in some cases, some of your current ones if they have fallen behind in the technology curve. In the end, you will get a better trained workforce, which means your people are going to be more efficient, they're going to be billable faster, and they're going to have less problems for you. And why you need to persist in training, right? How else do you cut down on new employees' CAD questions? How else do you educate new employees on the standards in your company processes? And how can I avoid costly errors in projects? If you're not training your employees and you expect them to know everything from day one, you're already going to introduce costly errors because they are not going to know certain things about your corporate culture, your corporate standards, and your corporate environment. And the really important thing is you need to embrace training as part of your company's culture. This is going to be critical going forward to understand that every employee that you train is going to be better able to accommodate what you need to happen. They're going to be able to be billable sooner, and you're going to be able to have a well-trained workforce, and that well-trained workforce is going to turn around and work better for you. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this.